Good morning, guys. Today is April 19th, Friday, 2024. So today is Friday, April the 19th, 2024. This morning, I want to talk about the kids and the youth of today because more and more kids are having kids, and it really starts with the parents of my generation and the very generation under me. And it's amazing to me that when I go out sometimes, I see um, men, fathers that are allowing their daughters to wear, look, when your daughter's underwear are covering more of her than her shorts, that's an issue. Why is nobody teaching the young parents respect for their bodies? Is that why young people are having younger and younger or becoming parents? Because nobody's teaching them. You know, my sons, my sons may not appreciate me saying this, but I'm going to say this. My sons are still, praise the Lord, virgins. And they have been taught, they still live at home, they have been taught um, modesty. They've been taught to teach women the utmost respect. Not they have. I don't mean they've been taught to teach women. I mean to say that they have been taught to treat women with the utmost respect, with the utmost of just they because that's how they treat me. They treat me with respect. They treat me as they know I am the weaker species because I am female, but they also treat me with respect. They also treat me with just love and utter protection. They just, you know, they've been raised in an environment where they know that they are men and it is their job to be respectful, to seek ye the Lord first this day, and to protect and to look out for and to make sure that mom's okay. Because that's what they were taught by their father. To make sure that mom's okay, that mom eats, that mom's provided for, that mom's cared for, as well as mom makes sure that they're cared for, that they are loved, that they're taken care of, that they are taught well, that they are learning. My children, my boys are 20 and 21. And I have to tell you, they were just, people say that, oh, when they get this age, they're going to do this, and when they get that age, they're going to do that. Did you prepare them for that? I mean, did you prepare your children to be rebellious? Did you prepare your children to be, you know, children do really what they're prepared to do, but at the same time, because I have four children, I understand that children also, as they get older, have their own personalities and they do pretty much whatever they want to do. We can teach them right from wrong, but it starts really like it just starts with you. And the deep rooted and the self conscious lessons will stay. And as children get older, like we all do, they will develop their own personalities. But let me ask you this: when you left home, how was it important for your children to be dressed? Because, see, when I took my children out, they went out very clean. They went out very well. And if they weren't, if my children were not respectful, well mannered, if they did not address people as Mr. and Mrs., if they didn't hold the door open for you, um, if they didn't do things that were considered mannerable and respectful, you best believe somebody said something to them either in that moment or as soon as it was appropriate. I remember one time, I'm from New Orleans. I'm from deep South New Orleans. And I've tried to control my accent over the years, but I know it does sneak through once in a while. But I remember my sons being, oh my gosh, they were probably 3 and 4 in a Walmart basket. And it's funny because they hear me talk about this all the time. But they were 3 and 4 in a Walmart basket. And the 3 year old was sitting in the front, the 4 year old was standing in the back. And I told the 4 year old, he was reaching for the shoes that were on the rack at Walmart. And I said, son, don't do that, because I was walking down the aisle. And in all honesty, in my mind, I wasn't worried about the shoes or the rack. I just didn't want him to reach out and grab it, and I didn't see and have his little arm pulled or extended to the point where it would have gotten hurt or bent backwards or whatever. In my mind, I'm thinking about him. I don't really care about the Walmart shelving, because that can be replaced, and I really didn't care about the Walmart shelving. I'll be honest with you. I didn't want to see him get hurt. And so he said something, and my husband said something, and um, I remember stopping, and it became a conversation for a moment. And so I was getting ready to walk off again, and my 3 year old, sitting in the front of the basket, reached out and grabbed the shoes. And then the 4 year old, seeing the 3 year old do it, he reached out again to grab the shoes. And so I gave both of them a light spanking, a light, tapping of the hand. And my husband's like, "Oh, no, 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 you can't do that here," because, like I said, I'm from deep South New Orleans, and at that point, I'm living in Missouri. And he's like, "Oh gosh, no, you can't do that. You can't, no, 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 no. You can't, you can't spank your children in the store on camera." Blah, 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 blah. I said, "You know what? I just did." You're gonna tell me I can't, but I just did. I did. I just did. So it's too late for I can't, because I already just did. Because, and people here in Missouri are, oh, Child Protective Services this and Child Protective Services that. Well, let me tell you something. As parents of a 33-year-old, a 27-year-old, a 20-year-old, and a 21-year-old, when my kids were kids, I would tell you then that, you know what, if Child Protection Services is going to come and try to correct me for correcting my children. See, and I always said this, when I'm done with them, now they're your problem. Meaning that when I'm done raising my kids and they have become adults, that now they are society's problem. Now society has to deal with them. So do you want me to raise them now while they're children, or do you want to raise them later when they're adults? And I used to tell my kids, look, if DFS shows up at my door, which is Department of Family and DFS, Department of Family Services, yes. If they show up at my door, I tell you what, you better pray that they take one of us, because I'm going to spank you till they get here. I'm going to spank you while they're here. I'm going to spank you while they're gone, after they leave. So you better pray they take one of us, because see, as long as you're mine and I'm footing the bills to buy the food and pay the rent, and I'm not on any government assistance. So the government has no hand in helping me raise you. So they don't get to say how or what I'm going to discipline you as. Okay, I at that point was not on public housing. At that point, I was not on food stamps. At that point, I was not getting any free government medical assistance. So the government is not assisting me in food, shelter, or medical. They don't get to come in and assist me in raising. So there's that. Okay. So when I was done raising my children, like I said, both of my daughters have moved out and have families of their own because they are older. They are 27 and 33. And the 20-year-old and the 21-year-old are still at home. And again, they may not appreciate me saying this, but this is the God's honest truth. They are both virgins, still living at home. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the way of the Bible. That is the way of God. That is the way of purity. See, I'm not worried about the way of the world. Okay? They are saving themselves for a holy and equally yoked woman. And she's out there. She's out there. She has been handcrafted and specifically made for each one of my sons. And the Bible says, when you cleave unto your spouse, that's when a man shall leave his family and cleave unto his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And so that is what we are living for. So again, I ask you, when you leave home, how are you dressing your children? Or how are you allowing them to dress? Because I tell you what, my children were not allowed to dress, my girls especially, but even my boys today, my girls were not allowed to dress like they worked overnight on the corner of, my street where I live. And even today, my sons are not allowed to wear their pants around their ankle, exposing their underclothes or their underwear, because nobody cares what kind of underwear you wear. Nobody cares what color your underwear are. Nobody cares what your behind looks like. If somebody wants to know what your behind looks like, yeah, depending on your age, it sounds like you might have a child issue predatory thing going on. Okay, so that's not exactly what I would be achieving for in life, but hey, when I see young people walking around with their clothes falling off, I wonder who dressed them that day. And how come at your age of 14, 15, 16, 19, 20, how come you don't know what size clothes you fit? And why were you okay leaving home advertising your body like they advertise it in prison? Did you just get out this morning? I mean, were you just released from prison and you don't understand how the outside world works? I mean, is that what we're talking, young men? And fathers who allow their children, their female girls, seriously, you allow, back in my day, they were called Daisy Dukes. I don't know what they're called now. But you allow your female daughters to wear shorts that their behind is hanging out of at 7, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. And then you wonder why your grandparents, by the time, you know, I mean, you're allowing your children to wear, your females, to wear shorts with their behind hanging out, and you can't understand by the time they're 13, 14 why they're sexually active. By the time they're 14, 15, your grandparents. I mean, you know, you don't understand that, but you know what? It really did start with you. And it started with the fact that you allowed them to advertise. And I'm not saying, you know, I'm not saying that they should be judged by the way they dress, but they are. Okay? They are. They are completely dressed, and depending on their age, so are you, because that's the way of the world. Now, my sons, my daughters never dress like that because I never allowed them to, because A, I bought their clothes. I had one of my kids show up here one time with clothes that their friend had given them. And the clothes that their friend had given them was completely inappropriate with what I allowed my children to wear in or out of my house. And so this child thought they were going to be slick because I always told them, as long as I provide the clothes, you're going to wear what I buy, and I'm not buying inappropriate. So this child, she thought, it was one of my daughters. She thought, okay, well, fine, I'll provide my own clothes, and since I provided it, I'll be able to wear it because you didn't buy it. But what she failed to realize was maybe I didn't buy those clothes, but again, you're not going to wear those clothes in and out of whose house? My house. And where are you living right now? My house. And who sets the rules? Me. And because she was, I want to say 13, 14, it wasn't happening. It wasn't happening because, see, kids will try to find loopholes. Kids, especially mine, because I raised them with that lawyer sense of mind where there's a loophole in everything. But let me tell you something. The loophole in that is it's my house, my rules, and you're not old enough to move out at the time and take this crap with you. So guess what? I told her she could take it back to the friend in which she got it from, or she could throw it away. And so this child tried to be slick. She took the box of clothes, walked around the corner, and set the box of clothes in my backyard. Like she was going to sneak them in later, and she didn't think I noticed. Well, I ended up noticing because I left to go somewhere that day. And as my husband drove around the corner, I glanced in the backyard, and I saw the box sitting there. And I said, I wonder what that is. So I made it home before she did, and I pulled the box in, and I looked through it, and I realized it was the box of clothes that I told her to take back to her friends. I was like, okay. I took that box of clothes, opened up my trash can outside, put those clothes in that trash can, shoved them down into that trash can, that nasty trash can, and made sure that she would not be able to dig them out because it was so nasty. It's a trash can, it's an outside trash can. And so I made sure that the clothes were mixed well in with the trash so she wasn't going to dig them out. And that's where it stayed. Because I was not, going to be defied in my own house, because this is my house. And this is how you raise your children. You don't allow your children to raise you. So, again, children do grow up and get their own personalities. But how they act in your house, under your roof, under your guidance, under your, um, example, while they're with you, has a lot to do with you. And when I see young children, young people who are out with their parents and have their behinds hanging out, or they're wearing mini skirts that look like if they bend over, oh, hallelujah, light's going to shine on all of us. It's kind of like, what's really going on in that household? I mean, Okay, moving right on to another topic. Same thing about the children, but just a different topic is what is the safe age for kids to be online and or to have devices? Now I'll tell you what, my children, my boys ended up getting laptops. I want to say they were 9 and 10 or 10 and 11 when they originally got laptops. And I did allow them each, because they got a great deal on laptops. I allowed them each to have a laptop. But at 9 and 10, their laptops did not go online. And I made sure daily that their laptops were not online. And what they were allowed to play were things that I would download, like math games, spelling games. They loved playing, it was a Space Invaders type game where you had your little spaceship and you got to shoot the number at the top of the screen. It would say 1 times 5 is, and then a bunch of numbers would shoot, and you got to shoot, 1 times 5 is 5. So you got to shoot the number 5 as many different times as the number 5 fell. Or they would have little spelling word games, or they would have little reading games, things that were age appropriate for 9 and 10-year-old. Now, as they got older, by the time they were 13 and 14, then I allowed them to go online and play because they were homeschooled. I allowed them to go online and play these different things and do homeschooling lessons and Bible lessons, and I allowed them to watch different videos and all these things. I sat there with them, and at the end of the school day, the computer was closed, and that was a wrap on that. Now, by the time they were 14 and 15, and they started going to the no, I'm sorry, they were 13 and 14. They started going to the park down the street from my house, which is probably 2 blocks away. They started going by themselves. I did get them a cell phone, which of course went online because there's really no way to block, or wasn't at that time, to block internet access. But I wanted them to be able to call home if there was ever an issue, or if they just needed to get in touch with somebody or whatever. So they each had a cell phone by the time they were 13 and 14. Now, I would closely monitor that with, checking the history. I also had it linked to my phone so that I could find them on the phone if it ever got lost or stolen or whatever. And then we actually did have an incident one time where my son's phone was stolen from him at the park, and we actually tracked it down to the person's house, and the police went and got the phone back for us. So, I mean, there's that. So, what age was a safe age is the question. What age did you consider, or do you consider, a safe age for your children to have a device and or be online? Okay, now here's another question I'd like to pose about the children. And this, again, these questions are geared towards, and this video is geared towards adults. I'm not making it for children. I'm not making it to children. I'm making this video to adults conversating with parents, from one parent to another. And I'm just saying that because I want to clarify that, since I am on YouTube, and YouTube does ask, is this video made for kids? No, it's not made for kids. It's made about kids. There's a difference. It was made for parents to think about what they're doing. All right, so here's another question that I'd like to pose: is who is teaching your kids faith and religion? So much is going on in the secular world today, where kids are being taught reading, writing, arithmetic, gender, sex, and pronouns, that I'm just wondering who's teaching the faith, you know? Who is teaching your children their faith? Who is teaching their children their religion? Who is teaching your children, um, to praise God, or praise whoever it is you praise? I mean, you if you're a Jehovah's Witness, are you teaching your children that? Are you just blindly sending your kids off to school to be taught whatever it is they're teaching them in the secular world? Even Even back 20 years ago, when my son was born, I got one that's 20 and one that's 21. I knew then I didn't want them being taught by the secular world because so much was going on. And gosh, I thought it was evil back then. It's it's 20 times worse now. If you've got a kid in a public school that doesn't know whether they're a boy or a girl, yeah, there's some demonic something going on there. If you've got a child's teacher who's more worried about what that child calls them than they are about educating them, something's going on there. If you've got a child's teacher who's more worried about that child understanding who they sleep with at night, you've got problems. Because I never gave two craps about where my teacher lived, let alone who they slept with. I never cared what my teacher's pronouns were. I never cared. I just didn't care. And they tell you, that I see idiots walking around now with, don't assume my gender, okay? Then don't dress like something you don't want people to think you are. I mean, when you get ready to leave your house in the morning, if you don't want people to assume you're female, don't put on a dress. And if you're a man with a full on beard and no boobs, but you want somebody to assume you're a woman, so you put on a dress, then shave your dang face and stuff your bra. Because people are going, that's what the circular world does. That's what you do. That's what you do. You judge people by how they look. Um, uh, transgender people. Transgender people judge people by the way they look, and they try to emulate that so that they can look like that person. A man who wants to identify as a woman does what? He puts on a dress and high heels because why? He's trying to emulate a real woman because that's what he thinks in his mind, in his finite mind. That's what a woman looks like to him, and that's how he's judged the female race. And so he tries to emulate it, but then they tell you, don't judge me, don't try to assume my gender. Well, you assumed their gender, and then you tried to emulate it. And then the same thing with a woman who wants to look like a man. You flatten your breast and you put on a suit or you get a short haircut and you put on what they call boys' clothes, and that's what you've done. You've judged the male world by the way it looks and you've tried to emulate it. But then when somebody judges you by the exact same standards you have judged others, you get upset about it. It's like I don't understand that whole concept. But again, I digress too far. I really, because my question is what are they teaching your kids at school, and are you allowing them to get away with that, or have you pulled your kids out of school and decided to let them homeschool? And a lot of parents will go, well, I can't homeschool because I have to work 8 hours a day. That's great. That's lovely. Work 8 hours a day. Work 10, 12 hours a day. But if your kids are 10 years or older, then I mean, unless they're special needs children, if your children is if your child is an average child, and I'm not speaking about special needs children because if anybody knows me, I have a child that's on the spectrum, and I have another child that has a seizure disorder. So I'm not saying anything bad about children of special needs. But if you have the average child, an average child of my generation at 10 years old became what they call a latchkey kid. You were allowed and able and fully capable of being at home by yourself for a few hours a day and not burn the house down. You know, you could feed yourself, you could use the bathroom, and if the parents set up a learning curriculum, and it doesn't have to be anything expensive, doesn't have to be anything you bought or found online. I used to go to Walmart. I used to go to Walmart and get what they call the big. It actually has the word big written on it. Age appropriate workbooks for my children. And you can get some workbooks that the big actually have it sectioned off, and that's why they're big. They're like 2 inches thick and probably weigh about 5 pounds. No, they probably weigh about 2 pounds. They are quite heavy, and they have it sectioned off: reading, spelling, math, science, social studies. Or you can get the smaller books, individual books. And I want to tell you, you can also go to a place called the Dollar Tree where they have a great teacher section, and in the book section, they have workbook section where you can get the individual reading books, spelling workbooks, and math and such. So you can set up your own curriculum. Once you decide to homeschool your kid, the state and the school has nothing to do with that child anymore. They have no control over them. They don't set the guidelines. They don't come in and tell you how to educate your child. It now becomes your responsibility, and that is such a freeing ability because you can now teach your kids what you want them to know, how you want them to know it, and you can teach them at your and their own pace. And you don't need anyone's permission on how you do that. So, again, that question was, who is teaching the kids faith and religion? Are you allowing that to be done by the public school or a private school, or are you doing that, or is someone else doing that? All right, so today's topic is this world today, as you see on the background of this video. And then the topics we hit is the way kids dress, what age is it appropriate for them to have devices and or be online, um, who's teaching the kids religion and or faith. All right, so now moving right along, let's see, what are we doing? Moving right along to, I posted something yesterday in the group, and if you were paying attention, it was called the Whole Hand Prayer. So, to keeping it fun for our weekend Bible quiz, I want to ask you things about the Whole Hand Prayer. What does the thumb represent? What does the first finger represent? What does the second finger represent? What does the third finger represent? What does the pinky represent? All right, now look at the Whole Hand Prayer picture that I posted on in the group on Facebook. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, then go over to Facebook, Only Believe in One, join that group, and then look for the picture, because I did picture it in the group, the Whole Hand Prayer. And then the whole hand itself also stands for something. Now, the picture may be a little blurry, so if making it bigger you can't make it out, let me know. I can retake that picture and repost it for you. So that is your quiz for today. What does the thumb stand for? What does the first finger stand for? What does the middle finger stand for? What does the fourth stand for? What does the pinky stand for? And what does the hand stand for as far as prayer goes? All right, now your wisdom verse for today is Luke 6, chapter 6, verse 40. Students are not greater than the teacher, but the student is fully trained, but the student who is fully trained will become like the teacher. All right, guys, that's your wisdom verse for the day. I'm going to bid you adieu. And I'm going to go edit this video for you. You guys, today is Friday, so I hope you're gearing up for an amazing, blessed, and just utterly awesome, great, glory-filled weekend. And I will see you in the next one. But before I go, remember this: we do not do evening classes on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. However, um, I may post a live service, a live evening service. Like, I mean, that just depends, because sometimes my pastor doesn't have, because he's traveling, the evening services, or he doesn't have those available. So be looking for the weekend. Be looking for something in the evening. If I don't get a live evening post, I'm sure I'll come post something, because I don't like to leave the group sitting for that long, or for 24 hours with no activity. So I'll be posting something, I'm sure. So, but it won't be a regular lesson like it is off of Monday through Thursday. All right, so let me get this out to you guys. And I love you in the Lord, and I will see you on Saturday. Happy, happy weekend, guys.